Now moving on to the next tool, which is the Shell Solid tool. Let's look at the tool settings window. We have a setting for shell thickness, which we have to make. The tool won't work without a shell thickness. And we have shell outwards. I'll explain this in a second. I'm going to work on this solid, and I'd like you to draw that before you start yourself. Just use SmartLine to draw the top surface, but remember, just draw half of it and mirror it and then turn it into a closed shape, and then extrude it vertically downwards. Make sure though that you do not keep the profile, otherwise you'll find problems later on. What we're trying to do is this. We're trying to shell out the solid so that all we have left are the faces that you can see, which now have thickness. You can see the thickness of the faces, which are equal over the entire object. In the process, I want to remove the top face and the two end faces so that I have a clear run through here, and the intention is to run a shaft through there with some sort of mechanical equipment in the center of this. So this is kind of a shaft and mechanical cover. So that's the idea. And we're working on this. So the tool hollows out a solid and allows you to specify the thickness of the remaining faces. You can remove any of the faces of the solid during this process. And the tool works on any standard solid. Now, one point before we start, if you turn on shell outwards, what that does is add the shell thickness to the outside faces of the object, which is fine if, for example, you're making a mold for a machine part, for example, whereas we want to shell, in this case, inside to give us an inside wall thickness. So the procedure is to first select the solid, then select the faces that you want removed, in our case, the three faces. And it works best in wireframe. So I'm going to go into wireframe. Now this, again, is a little tricky because I can see the top face and I can see the end face here, but I cannot see the back vertical face. That's hidden behind the object. So there are a couple of ways of doing this. The trickier way is as follows. Let's start the tool. We must select the element and data point on the top face to select it. Now I need to select this back face. I'm going to put my cursor there and control data point. And you see, as soon as I hit control, the vertical face highlights and I data point on it. Now it's selected, but I don't want that face. I want the one next to it. So now I'm going to hit reset and the focus switches to the face behind, i.e. the next face around the corner. So I've selected the hidden face. Now I come across and put my cursor here and control data point again. Now I'm selecting the front vertical face and all three faces are selected. So I simply data point in the view to accept. There. Let's do a shading and we see that it's worked perfectly. Let me do that again for you because it is a little tricky. So I'm going to undo, back to wireframe. Tool is running. Select the element, data point to select the top face, move over here, control data point to select the side face. Don't want that, I want the one adjacent. Reset, that selects the adjacent hidden face. Do not data point, it's already selected. Move over here, control data point for that face, and data point in the view to accept. And we're done. Now, if you have trouble with this at all on any sort of object, then the second method is simply to select the faces that you can see and then rotate the element so you can see the faces that you want which are behind other faces. If all else fails, in other words, rotate the object. Perfectly acceptable. So please practice with that. Keep on doing and trying to select different faces to see the effects. And please practice that reset operation to select those hidden faces. One thing you might try is to select the solid object to start the shelling process, but don't select a face. Simply data point in the view to accept the shelling. See if you can figure out what's actually happening. Now I must move on to the next tool, which is this one. And this one is the one next to it, which is Replace Face. I'm using this configuration, and I'm just going to show you exactly what's happening here. I'm going to do a rotate. Let's go this way. Notice that the red face is not parallel. It's at an angle in both directions to that upper face here. So this is entirely different orientation to this face here. What I want to do is to move this top face up in the same alignment as the red face. So let's see how this works and follow the prompts. It tells us to select the element. Well, that will be this one, which is a solid. And I want that face there. And then we select the surface. That's this one. And data point. And we see the horizontal surface has gone upwards. And let's do a rotate at this point and see what we have. And you see that the upper face has now matched entirely the red face, even though they're not in the same location. That's what this tool does. It will extend or shorten one face to match the orientation of another face. Now I'm using a planar face. That's the red one. But you can use almost any surface you wish, of almost any type, curved or otherwise. So give that one a try as well. Experiment with different shapes. Experiment with different orientations of the red surface and see how it works.